Welcome to the Father Knowts podcast, and I am your host, Warren W. Patten Jr., or you can call me Father Patten. Father Knowts is an informational style podcast created to give fathers a voice in their family structure. I encourage fathers to take back fatherhood and shake the trees of tradition to create a stronger family unit. We'll also delve into men's health, leadership, mentorship, and so much more. Okay, men, it's time to be a better father on purpose. Hello, Father. Welcome back to the Father Knowts podcast. Come on in. This is our month. This is June, Men's Health Awareness Month. It's all about us, guys. And we have to be purposeful and intentional about keeping ourselves in good health. Not just when we're younger, as we age, it's very important that you keep your health as the top importance for you and your family. Because without you, there is no family. You have to be there. So I'm just letting you know I'm so excited about this month. Of course, Father's Day is coming up soon, and I hope everyone is celebrating like they would if it was Mother's Day. I don't know. We need to be, because fathers are also important too. So welcome once again to the Father Knows podcast. And I tell you, so excited. I'm excited about all of them, but I'm super excited about this one because this is episode 8. And it is a part 1 of A Father's Health and Family Legacy. Yes, indeed, A Father's Health and Family Legacy. This is part 1. And because this is part 1, this is about your physical health. Now, I'm not going to go into details because many of you are aware, but I'm going to do some things a little bit different. You know my little slogan that I say on this podcast, shake the trees of tradition. And that's what I did for my family and still doing. And I'm going to share a little bit of what I did that may be able to help you. So here we go. I tell you, and I got a few things I want to show you. I'm going to be reading from the internet. I looked up some information. Yes, I got some facts for you. Yes, indeed. And I also have a little diagram that I'm going to share with you a little bit later on. I want you to stay tuned now, because this is good stuff. And you've probably never seen this before. Yes, I think I come up with some very good ideas. And when I do come up with these ideas, of course, everyone thinks I'm crazy, and that's okay, because I am crazy, but crazy in a good way. Crazy in a good way. But when I explain what I do to my family, at first they're shaking their heads like, and then after I explain it and they really listen, then they're like, yeah, that's like you, Warren. That's exactly you to do something like that. And then they start to understand the benefits. But hey, enough of that. Let's get right into the content today. Remember, this is part 1 of A Father's Health and Legacy, Family Legacy. Now, fathers, you should be responsible for your own health, both physical and mental. But let's really key in on the physical. It is easy to be responsible for your family's health, but being responsible for your health, that's a higher calling. And when you put yourself first, everybody's going to be just a bit critical. Why do you put yourself first? But you have to explain to them. You just can't do it and hope they understand. You really have to explain to them why it's important that you put your health first. And when you're doing that and you're getting treated a certain way, how does that make you feel? Do you feel selfish? Do you feel unworthy? Do you feel guilty? And I know you feel judged, because people are not used to you taking care of yourself. Most people are selfish. What about me? What about you? Learn from my example. And if you take care of yourself, then when you speak to them about taking care of themselves, they tend to listen a little bit because they know that you do that for yourself. Now, the father must be the example. I got me some lines here I want to put in, of course, and that's the first thing. A father's example should shine through in the family. All of the things that you do should be the example for your family, specifically when it comes to your health, and specifically if it comes to your sons. That is the key right there. Some of the things that you do are just meant for helping your sons grow into young men. That is true. That is true. You have to be able to exercise. I'm not saying go out to the gym and run around and all of that. If that's what you want to do, that's great. But as you age, you may not be able to do that. But you have to be able to show them that you can do something. So start your exercise regimen. I'm still working on my regimen. I got pads and everything set up in my garage so I can go out there and do just as much as I can. And I got to listen to my body, as you should, Father. Listen to your body to make sure you don't overdo it. Don't let your ego say, I used to do 20 of these when you can only do 5. I'm telling you, I'm okay with doing 5 push-ups right now. The shoulder sometimes screams at me, but that's okay. I can do 5. It's better than doing none. Yes, indeed. Also, some of the activities around the house can be looked at as exercise. And some of those activities or chores around the home, that's where you show your example of taking care of yourself and taking care of the home. And your children, specifically your sons, should be participating in that adventure. That's why it is key. I remember years ago when we finally moved into our second home, and this was we were thinking this was going to be our last home. And I bought a wooden swing set. And it was the real deal with swings, a slide, a tree house, everything. And I was going to put it together myself. And I had my first 4 sons helping me, doing the sawing, the putting on in the bolts, and all of the things that it took to put it together. I wanted them to see it come from the ground up, and that was hard work. They thought it was just going to be fun. No, no, no. I told them the fun would be after we finish. Then you can swing and slide and do all of the things that we have here. But putting it together, I tried to make it fun. Yes, and it was sometimes fun, but that was work. And it was a lot of exercise, but it was very good for us. So those daily routines that you do when you are shaving, that's the example. When you're brushing your teeth, that's the example. Oh my. When you're using the restroom, Father, for your sons, that's the example. All right, that was one. Point 2, try as often as you can to attend all of the doctor's visits that your children have. Most of the times in the family structure, the mother does all of that. I want to let you know it's your business. And don't just wait for the wife, the mother, to come back and relay all of the information from the doctor to you. You need to hear it for yourself. And you need to show up for your child in front of the doctor. They need to know that you exist. Where's the daddy? He at work. You don't always have to be at work. Do what you need to do. Save up as many hours as you need to save up and try to be at those doctor's appointments. It is key. Sometimes your children need to know that you are available and you are there and supportive and that you care. You have to really plan those doctor's appointments. So, what I'd say is respect the refrigerator calendar, respect the wall calendar. You have to be aware of what's going on, when you can be there. You don't have to take a whole day off. You might just have to take off 2 hours. You may not be able to stay at the doctor's appointment the whole time, but if you're there for 10, 15 minutes, you have done what you can do to show your children that health is important. Yes, indeed. Whenever you go to the doctor, I really advise you to take notes. Take notes so you can keep up with what the conversation is. And there are times when they are using language that you don't understand. So write those things down, ask them to repeat it, ask them to spell it. So you can go home and do some research. I have learned to do that after every doctor's appointment so that I can get the knowledge that I need. So the second doctor's appointment, I am up to speed. And they know that I'm paying attention. And I'm doing that also as a caregiver for my mother and father. My phone is full of notes from one appointment to the next. And sometimes the doctors ask me, "What did we cover last time?" I have it right here. I'm just telling you. I might as well get my doctorate real soon. So, the father's example is key in the family structure. It just cannot be the mother being the example. You have to take care of yourself. Your children have to see that taking care of yourself is important. And that way they can follow your lead, a father's example. Okay, let's do another switch. This is a good one right here. Yes, indeed. Now let's dive into the family's personal health. And what I mean by that is find out from your mother and father the history of their health issues and their parents, your grandparents' health issues. And I'm going to tell you why that is very important. Let me tell you my story. This is when it hit me. I was probably 25, maybe 26, young man. And was I was in good shape. I was an athlete, of course. I played basketball. I was in very good shape. But I thought I was staying in shape, but I was really losing weight. Mm. And I wasn't trying to lose weight, but I was still trying to eat right. We didn't have any, my wife and I, we didn't have any children because, we planned our children and they weren't supposed to come until we got our career started. That's another episode. I've already talked about that a little bit, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I started losing weight. I was losing my strength in my muscles. I was in great shape, but I couldn't keep that strength in my muscles. I was very dehydrated many times because I was still playing basketball and football and doing all kinds of things because I was still young and wanted to keep that activity alive. Also, I just didn't have the taste for the food like I thought I should. So, of course, I'm not saying I ignored it. I was concerned, but I didn't know exactly what to do. I did not go to the doctor because I still could get up for the day and get started, but then I would wear down. But then it caught up with me. One day, I woke up, I was in the bed, laying on my back, and I could not move. I could not move. My wife was already up and getting started, ready to go to work. And I could not get up. It took me a while. Of course, I didn't say anything. I was going to power through, like I said, men do with our egos. I am going to power through. And I did. I pulled myself off that bed. But like I said, I was dehydrated. And I went straight to the kitchen. And I was walking very poorly, very sluggish. I opened the refrigerator door, and back in that day, we had a pitcher of water, and it was filled with water from the night before. We fill it up so we had that cold water in the morning. When I reached into the refrigerator, I'm holding the refrigerator door with one hand, and I reached in to pick up the pitcher of water. And when I grabbed it and picked it up, I blacked out. I hit the floor. Luckily, that pitcher of water did not come out of the refrigerator. I just set it back down because it was still sitting in the refrigerator. And I hit the floor. And I was out. I don't even know how long. When I opened my eyes, I was laying on my back, could not move. And that's when my wife comes running in. She must have heard me hit the floor. She must have heard me because I hit it. and she had to help me up, but she could not. She could not, and I could not help her help me. And I'm thinking, I'm an athlete while I'm laying there. I'm like, I'm in great shape. I eat right. I exercise. What is wrong with me? I have no strength in my muscles. And this was the scary part. As I was laying there wondering what was going on, and I couldn't move anything really. And all of a sudden, I heard my heart, and it was beating so fast. And I could look down and see my chest just bumping. Panic now. I said, oh my goodness, am I having a heart attack at 25, 26 years old? I am not believing this. And I don't have to tell my wife to call 911. She was already on it. The ambulance showed up. They picked me up. They put me on the gurney and took me to the hospital. And I must tell you, the doctors do ask you questions. Well, what do you have in your family? Do you have any history of this? Any of your grandparents died of a heart attack? Or do you have diabetes? All of the standard questions. And at that time, I could not answer any of those questions. All I knew is that my mother may be a borderline diabetic. That was all I knew. Remember, my biological father, I didn't know him that well. So I didn't know any family history. And then that's when it started ringing in my mind. If they're going to ask me these questions, I need to know my family's history so that I can take care of myself. I have to help myself as a father, as a husband, as a man. I have to be in charge of my health. And that health means I have to get the history of the health of the people in my family tree. Get the health issues of the people in my family tree. I'm not going to preach, not yet anyway. So I must say, I went through the process. They did a biopsy on my muscles. They took some muscles out of my body from my arm and from my leg. They had to test them to see what could be the problem. They injected me with uh, iodine fluid, so it would run through my body so they could see where the issues might be. I was in quarantine even before the pandemic. I knew about the quarantine. I was in quarantine for like, I think, 2 weeks. Quarantine? I could not go back to my apartment with my wife. I actually stayed in a separate room at my mother's home, and she had to stay away from me too. She had to scoot food in the door and close the door right back. I could not believe it. I said, I am quarantined in my mother's house and I'm a married man. I was calling on the Lord then. Come on, Lord, help me out here. But I stayed true to it. I followed the procedures the doctors told me. Come to find out, I have hyperthyroidism. Hyperthyroidism. Yeah, I have some notes here I want to read for you. I had to look it up because also on this podcast, I want to give you some facts as well. Hyperthyroidism, also known as an overactive thyroid, is a condition where the thyroid gland produces too much thyroid hormone. This excess hormone can speed up the body's metabolism. Remember when I told you about my heart beating fast? Speeding up my metabolism, leading to various symptoms like rapid heartbeat, weight loss, increased sweating. I've always been a heavy sweater. Hyperthyroid Hyperthyroidism can be caused by various factors, including Graves' disease, thyroid nodules, and thyroiditis. I did some research on that. Even back then, of course, back then I had to use an encyclopedia. Anybody know about an encyclopedia? Because there was no Google back in the day. We had to go and research it in the encyclopedia and find the information that we needed to know. That's what I did. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there. So after I found that information, that's when it clicked for me. I need to talk to my mother and my father And I have to encourage them, convince them to give me the family history of their own lives and also of their parents, which is four people, my grandparents. And I took some serious notes. The conversation, I must say, was very uncomfortable because in some families, in the family culture, it's so taboo. I don't want to talk about the issues that we have. But I had to let them know I need to know this because it could be affecting me. Why do I have this? Come to find out, my mother and father did not have hyperthyroidism. And of course, that makes your eyebrows go way up right away. Because if my mother and father don't have it, why do I have it? I did more research. I talked to my mother about her mother and father, no hyperthyroidism. But I did write down some of the other issues that they had because they were both smokers. I was like, I need to know about that. Then I went to my father, my biological father, and I asked him. And he said, my mother had hyperactive thyroid. My grandmother. Of course, it was a big secret in the household, but he knew about it because he was the youngest of four, and he had to do some caretaking for her when she was getting older. He had to know about it so he could understand what to do, when to do it. And I always wondered when I was a little child and she gave me the piano lessons why she always had bananas, because bananas are a great source of potassium. Dropping another gem on you. Bananas is a great source of potassium, and that's what your blood and your muscles need in order to keep them working. So that was more research that I found out. So when I went back to the doctor for my checkup, I let the doctor know that my grandmother has hyperactive thyroid. And he said, that's it. And I said, how did I get it and not my father? He said, you can't explain how some health issues skip around in the family tree. I said, what? Skip around in the family tree. That was big news, blew my mind. I was like, okay, I got this. And since we have diagnosed it and we know what it is, they were able to help me and they gave me the prescription for the medicine that I needed to take. And I've been taking it every day, one pill per day. Now, that pill is not doing what is controlling it. I also have to control it. When I talk about a father's health, in order for me to stay on top of things after all of these years, I have to take my medicine, of course, but I got to eat the right foods. I got to pay attention to what I'm eating. And bananas are great. And I do eat bananas, but I don't eat them all of the time. I had to find other avenues to get my potassium. And that's where you do more research. You just can't eat a banana because that's the only thing you know about. You have to do more research and find other items that will provide you the nourishment and the ingredients that you need to stay healthy. So I found it out from my grandmother. It skipped my father and came straight to me. Hey, discovery. That was an awesome moment for me and my family. I have five sons. I've said it once. I'm going to say it more and more. None of them have the thyroidism. So I'm not really worried, but maybe their children will, but they need to be aware of it. That is the key. So that is my story of why I started to shake the trees of tradition. And I got more to share because I started doing different things. I actually started recording all of the symptoms and all of the issues my grandparents had. What did they die from? What issues did they have later in life? My father was very uncomfortable, but I kept talking to him, kept talking to him. After a while, he started telling me things that I didn't ask for, but that's okay. I needed to know. And I wanted him to feel comfortable telling me. And some of the issues that he's having right now, I'm paying so close attention to. And I'm doing things that I'm learning that I'm helping him do to preserve his life. I'm doing it for myself. You have to be that disciplined to be a great father. You have to be that disciplined to be a great father. So I keep up with, and I say, find a place to keep all this information. I keep up with this information about my mother and her parents, all of their health issues, my father and his parents, all of their health issues. And to top it off, I keep up with my own. Let me share something with you. I keep a chart of everything that happens to me in my life. Hold on, I'm going to show it to you. I'm still here. Now, you should see on the screen is a picture, a diagram of the human body. And I have 3 of these, so I'm not going to share the one where I have all of the dirty details. But this one right here, I will share. I even put up there all of the places where I've been diagnosed with arthritis by the doctors, officially diagnosed, okay? And I put the year that I had all of these, not really done, but over the years, I said I was just going to put them on one sheet of paper, just my arthritis diagnosis. And I was my age and the year that I did it. So everywhere that I have those pains, because I played basketball, I did a lot of different sports. I'm a dancer, all of those things, they have to show up in your body some kind of way. So I have shoulder and rotator cuff issues, tennis elbow, of course, joint pains in my hands. I'm not ashamed to say, but having this information helps me really understand what I got to do from day to day to take care of myself. And also, I'm going to pass this down to my sons. Key things: both of my knees, my kneecaps or patellas have been broken. That's the reason when it rains, I can tell when the rain is coming and when I'm going to have some aches and pains. But I have knee pads and knee wraps. Yes, I do, because I'm taking care of my health. So I think you should do this. This is something that you can just pull offline and just have a picture of a human body and put down when you go to the doctor, what did they let you know? Now, on another sheet, I have the down and dirty things that I had done to my body, my wisdom teeth taken out, any surgeries that I had, my colonoscopies that I've had, and the results of those colonoscopies. Everything else that's done, I have it on another sheet of paper. It is crucial that you keep that information and you share it with your family. It's going to be helpful. They won't realize it at first, but it's very important. I even shared it with my mother and with my father. And of course, they're like, I don't need to know that. I said, yes, you do. You need to be aware. In case something happens to me and my sons have to ask you, you know about it. And you may not know where it is, but you let them know, didn't your father have a sheet of paper to tell you all of this? Yes, he does. And they're going to say, oh, that's right. Our crazy father does. So, hey, another helpful hint for you, if you would like to do that, go online, find a diagram of the human body, outline, and then when you go to the doctor, write down, put a little line, write down exactly what the diagnosis was. Or if you just want to go back in history and think about the things that you had done. Now, like I said, I'm crazy. I have a stack of my doctor's appointments. And I started doing that because of my hyperthyroidism. But if I go to the doctor for anything, I am recording it on one of my charts. I have 3 charts. And I want to make sure everything is there for my sons so they won't, if they have questions, they'll have answers, something that can help them. Another thing that I do, been doing it for, oh my goodness, 30 years, maybe longer. I've been checking my blood pressure, my weight, and my temperature twice a month. I record it on my calendar, on my personal calendar. I want to make sure that I fight that weight gain, that I keep my blood pressure at a certain point, and I check my temperature. And reason you check your temperature, I started doing that during the pandemic. That's right. Because everywhere you went, we were checking temperatures. So I still do to this day. And we keep a thermometer because we have grandchildren. Come on. Come on, father. You got to be smart. Keep some of those things in your home because if you have grandchildren. But if the first and the 15th of the month, I check my blood pressure, I check my weight, and I check my temperature. And I record it. So if my sons come in and I'm laid out, they would be able to ask it, is your father having any problems with blood pressure or anything? Well, he records it on his calendar. Let's check. To me, it's so simple. If you make the focus important to take care of your health, it's so easy. There's some things that I love to do that I don't do anymore because they're not as important as my health. Yep, I said it. Some things I don't do anymore because my health is more important. I have to pay attention to it. All right. Now, make sure that you study those issues in your family and see how they navigate through your family tree. And be sure to share with your sons, your family, how it's actually moving through. Don't be mad. It is what it is. I can't go back and blame my grandmother. I don't know what happened in her life, but I know I have what she had, and she was taking care of herself, and she lived to be 90. So I got that on my calendar, 90. I want to at least get that far and further. All right. Make sure you record your vital signs as much as you can in your calendar, on your phone, somewhere where someone will be able to access it. Very important. And you can print off what your blood pressure should be. I have one of those charts too. I'm not going to share that with you. I don't want this to turn into a class. Well, it could be. So pull off what the blood pressure should be and your heart rate. Because of your weight, it should be a certain number. Pull up all of that information. Make sure you get all of the information on what the top number should be, the bottom number should be. All of that information is key and crucial to a father's health. All right. I tell you the truth, it is so impressive that we are doing this. And as we come to a close, don't feel ashamed that you are taking care of yourself. That is a father's role. Take care of yourself first, then take care of your family. And while you're taking care of yourself, your family is watching you as the example of taking care of yourself. I believe it works. I believe it works. Standing here right now, I don't know if it'll change. I have 5 sons and a wife. None of them smoke. None of them drink. I think they're following my lead. I think they're following my lead. Now, they might take a sip to celebrate. They might, but I don't see them drinking and smoking. I hope that they have followed my lead about taking care of themselves and not doing harm to yourself on purpose. No, do the best you can every day. And I'll say it, and I got it on the screen. As a patriarch of your family, protect your family legacy, Father. Protect your family legacy. You are the architect of your family's tree. So make sure that you have a strong foundation. You explain why you do what you do and why it's important that your family follows your lead. And that will make life so much better. This just popped in my mind because it was key for me. One of my sons had appendicitis. He was 17 and he was in Labana Hospital as a 17-year-old in a child's bed, feet hanging off because he was 6'2". But the biggest thing about it, they told us if his appendix explodes during the surgery, he could die. It could contaminate his body and he could die. Well, it did explode, and they panicked, and they were trying to flush everything out of his system, and he was in the hospital for 2, maybe 3 weeks. My wife and I was by his side. But you know the biggest thing that happened during that? He was laying in the bed, and I mean, he had lost a lot of weight. And looks like the doctors didn't know exactly what else to do. He was hooked up to an IV, being fed through an IV. And I'm going to tell you, you got to have you got to have faith. You got to have faith in the Lord. And while I was sitting there, I remember, and I don't know what the scripture is because I'm not saying that that I can report to you straight from the Bible, but I know I heard what came in my mind while sitting in that hospital. The body is a temple. The body is a temple. We were made in the creation of the Lord. And I want to tell you, I did not wait on those doctors to come back and give us any bad news. I talked to my wife and I said, Miss Patten, we are going to get our son out of this bed and he is going to get out of this hospital. And you know, my son is sitting right there listening. Oh, Father, what are you getting ready to do? While he was hooked up, I said, sir, this body of yours was created by the highest of highs, and it's supposed to work how it's supposed to work. So you're gonna get out of that bed, and we're gonna go for a walk. And you know, he was exhausted, he was tired. He had only been from the bed to the restroom, and when he went to the restroom, nothing happened because he hadn't eaten any real food. And we needed a good old BM. We needed a good old bowel movement. Yes, we did. And of course, there were hardly no kids in the hospital on that floor. And I said, "Hey, let's go." And my wife said, "That's my son." I said, "Yeah, mine too." And we finna get to walking, and we gonna flush whatever it is in there. We gonna flush it out because we gonna step it on out. And my son said, "Okay, Father, let's go." And he grabbed his little, the IV is connected to the pole there, hanging with his 2 bags. And we walked outside, and the nurse said, "Excuse me, Mr. Patton, what are you doing?" I said, "We're going for a walk right down the hall. That's all we're doing." Sir, the doctor did not. I said, "I understand. Thank you so much. We're going for a walk." And we walked down to the end of the hall, the short end, and my son started sweating. He said, "Father, I don't feel good." I said, "But we got to make it back to the room." We went back to the room, and I said, "Have a seat, rest. We're going to do it again." He said, "Ooh, Father, I'm not feeling lightheaded." I said, I know. That's hey, just because you hadn't been out of this bed, take a break." He laid down, take a little nap, probably 15 minutes. He woke back up. "Father, I'm ready to go." I said, "Go, let's go then. Let's go." And we walked outside. This time we went to the long end, of the hall. And the nurses were looking at us. And I said, when we walk by the nurses, make sure you wave. Hey, that's what we did. And they waved back like, we're gonna be in trouble. And then we went all the way down and we came back and I said, "How you feel, Jeremy?" He said, "I'm tired, but I feel pretty good." I said, "Okay, let's go back in here and rest." He said, "Nope, I want to go down to the other end." I said, "Let's go." And we walked down to the other end and I had him walk a little bit quicker, but not fast, just a little bit more. I said, "Come on, you can do it." So we went back in, he had a seat. And he didn't want to lay down this time. He said, "Father, I think we can go back out there." I said, "Let's go." I said, "Now, if we go out there this time, we're going to have to break into a little fast walking or a jog in order to make things happen now. We got to, work up a little sweat and get things moving in that body of yours." He said, "Okay." So we went down to the short end since we were going to do a little fast walking and jogging. Of course, I had to sing "Eye of the Tiger" while we were running. Dun, 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 dun. Yes, I did. And the nurses were laughing and clapping, and my wife wasn't clapping, but she didn't say anything. She just was looking. We got to the end of the hallway. It was a big mirror. I mean, a big window looking out over the campus of the hospital. And I said, "Jeremy, can you give me a Bruce Lee kick?" He said, "What?" Give me one of those Bruce Lee kicks that you could kick up real high. See, my son loved karate pictures, and that was probably because of me. And he did a karate kick. Oh, back when he was exercising quite a bit, he could kick, 6 feet, 6 feet, 6'5" high. He was very flexible and could do that. And I said, well, give me a quick kick. And he said, oh, Father, I don't think I can do that. I said, you don't have to get up as high as you did then. Just give me a kick. I just want to see how high can you go. He raised up. Now, he got on this smock, but he had on two, cover the front and cover the back. He said, oh, Father, I don't want to show anybody anything. I said, oh, don't worry. You're in a children's hospital. So he started laughing. So I said, give me another kick. And he got about almost waist high. I said, hey, we'll work on that. And we walked back to the room. We ran back to the room. Dun, 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 dun. We were really having a good time. And this was the moment when he went back in the room. I said, well, I tell you, take another break. He said, nope, got to go to the restroom. And then we heard him scream, Father, come look. And he was so happy. He dropped a little turd. And I tell you, at that moment, we were the happiest three people because his body just clicked. The body is a temple. It just clicked and started working. And he said, Father, I need some food. I was like, we can get you whatever you want, brother. So that was another moment for me to know that this body can really take care of itself, but it takes us to really guide it in the right direction. So, Father, take it seriously. This is Men's Health and Awareness Month, and this is primarily about your physical health. Give me a moment. It makes me happy. And we should be in charge of our health. It is very important. So take that with you. I hope you learned a couple of things, a couple of new things that can help you in your family unit, your family structure, but specifically to help you be a better father on purpose. Like the book says, I'm gonna have to show it to you every time. Father Knows Being a Better Father on Purpose. The only way you can get it is order from my website. You know where to go. And also, like I said, this is episode 8, but this is part 1. The next episode 9, will be about mental health. I'm giving you a peek into the next episode. It's going to be about mental health. I got a few things to share about mental health, but we get there. That'll be in a couple of weeks. Remember, the podcast, the Father Knows podcast, is posted every other Wednesday. Look forward to seeing you again. I hope you like, share, and subscribe to my Facebook page and my YouTube channel so that you can know when the next episode is on its way. From Father Patten, be healthy. I'll catch you on the other side. Thanks for joining the Father Knows podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Warren W. Patten Jr. That's Patten Jr. Follow our socials on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Father, make the choice to use your voice